This is Tony Chapman, and you're watching the Dales Report. Cannabis. I've spoken at a dozen conferences, television interviews. I'm fascinated by this business because its size, its scope, its scale. But if you want to play in it, it takes pursuit, it takes passion, it takes capital, it takes talent. You got to be playing a three-dimensional chess game. So last time we talked about this 620 million market. Is that just a population number, or is this a market that has a propensity for getting engaged with medical cannabis and some of the products that you're doing in consumer goods?
Yeah, so one of our biggest data providers, we study these markets intensely. Out of that 620, there's about 68 million people that fit the profile of a cannabis patient. So that's about 6 million people in Colombia alone. That's a tremendous market. Colombia is 50 million people, Canada's only 35. So we really focus in on those numbers, and then we break it down from there by condition, location, socioeconomic conditions, because people have to have the ability to pay in many cases.
Well, if you're a Coca-Cola, you look at 6 million and say that really doesn't matter because that's a small market, but you're saying in the medical cannabis, this means something. It's material.
It's a massive market, and also, because of demographics there, people are very much more predisposed. And then we've gone even further than that. Before we even spent $1, we surveyed hundreds and hundreds of doctors. If you had medical cannabis available to prescribe today, would you prescribe it? 3.5 out of 5 said yes, and that's still the answer. That benchmarks against about 2.5 out of 5 in Canada.
So what caused that? Why do you think that you've got the majority of doctors that are already have this sense of this could be the kind of solution that I want to give? This is the kind of protocol I want to prescribe to my patients, because it's still a fairly new area of medicine.
Well, we show them a lot of data. There's tons and tons of systematic data. We have a top medical team. At the top of that is Dr. Maria Fernanda, who's based in Mexico City for us, leads a lot of our patient education. We've got a whole team that goes out and just shows the evidence. A lot of people can just say, hey, it works, just give it a try. That doesn't work for doctors. We have to show them, we have to display the facts, and we can do that over and over and over again. We're getting very, very good at that part of our job. The second part is, culturally, people are just more predisposed to organic, homeopathic remedies. It's more of a cultural thing in Latin America.
So when you look at the culture that you're building and the talent you're building, and because your ambitions, we were talking off camera, this is a company that's got sizable growth ambitions. How do you keep nimble? How do you make sure that you are looking at each market for the nuances, the unmet needs, the opportunities, and you're moving that way versus sort of freezing up because size overtakes your entrepreneurial instincts?
Yeah, I think in any company, whether it's in cannabis or any other business, it's communication and expectations. If you don't get those two things right, you're not going to get your business right. So we communicate. We build expectations. We set goals. We hire incredibly talented people, give them big objectives, and hold them accountable to it.
And when you start looking for talent, are you looking just people that are already in this industry, or is your horizons expanding and saying, I want fresh pairs of eyes that can come in and offer us different points of view?
I think you're seeing not only in our company, but many, many companies, a transition into Cannabis 2.0. These are people that come from big pharma, they come from big retail, consumer packaged goods. There's nothing really unique about how this product is going to be distributed and consumed compared to other products. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel there. But we have that in our DNA. We've been doing it since day one. So
what are the things that you're trying to build up as this board? I've read a lot about that. You're saying, I'm going to invest and have a really strong strategic board. Tell me some of the moves that you did. You talked about in the last interview, you talked about the former president of Mexico, Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
What brought him on? I know he's been an advocate of cannabis for 10 years, but how did you two meet, and why did he choose your company over all the other doors I'm sure he could have walked through?
Yeah, and it was a competitive process, by the way, it really was. And as you know, he is a massive cannabis advocate for a long, long time. He's got an encyclopedic knowledge of the global cannabis markets. He really understands it. But for us, again, it's like family. We fit together. We speak the language. He's very, very proud of where he comes from. He lives in a place called Guanajuato. It's one of the most beautiful places you've ever seen, right in the heart of Mexico. And when we got together, he shares our same vision. He shares our same passion. And but he's the boss. He's a real director. He holds us accountable. We talked about Joe Mimram last time, who's also helping us advise the company. We just hired a new director this week, Deborah Rossetti. She brings a wealth of knowledge, and that's just another example of how we're continuing continuing to attract top talent. As the industry resets here, and I think we're kind of in a reset mode here. If you're on one team and you feel like you can get a little bit more leverage on another team, we're constantly recruiting. We're constantly leveraging our Rolodex to find the next group of people.
So that's a great point, because there's a lot of movement right now, and you're kind of saying we're a safe haven because we've got the right plan, the right capital to go forward. Is people starting to be a little more suspicious because of what's happened in this industry, or are you managing to defend your position and saying, listen, if you're going to make a move in the cannabis space, it's with us?
We're not in a position where we have to fix something that we've broken already. We're just executing on the plan that we started with day after day after day. And stock markets come and go, but we've stuck true to this plan. We stuck true to dealing with patients, focusing on consumers, focusing on unmet needs in markets that have a massive potential. And that's what we continue to do.
And as we start investing in the efficacy of the different cannabinoids and what's happening in medical cannabis, do you think that patents and the science is going to be an important part of your balance sheet?
I think that's a really important part for all companies, but our most important relationship is with our patients and our consumers. If we have those channels open, I think all the other stuff will figure itself out.
So your investment in patients and the actual and the channels that those patients respond on, you spend a lot of time, we talked about the last time I interviewed you, with the whole doctors at symposiums. What message did you bring them? Is it more generic about the potential of the product, or is it very focused about the brands that you offer?
We only focus on a very small number of indications, really just 6. There's as you're to your point, there's hundreds and hundreds of indications out there. We really focus on the big 6, the biggest one of which is chronic pain. In North America, we're in a crisis right now called opioids, and it's because people are taking way too money for way too long. We have a product. We're not going to completely replace this stuff, but we're going to make their lives a little bit better. You're going to help their appetite a little bit more. Maybe find them just a little bit more comfort and wellness along the way.
So I was with Joe Mimran recently at a show, and I was talking. He was mentioning that his involvement, and I said, "What's it like doing branding and marketing?" He said, "The interesting thing is that every market has their own set of rules." Mm-hmm. He said the advantage is, and I think you even talked about in an interview, that maybe the multinationals can't sweep the board with their one-size-fits-all, this drift net that try to captures everybody. You got to kind of fly fish and really understand that each market's different. And is that one of the things that Joe's bringing to your table to give you the kind of fresh thinking?
100%. And some of these countries are very big. People here in Canada, things are different in Ontario than they are in BC. Things are very different in the Maritimes than they are in Quebec. So that's the same in Mexico. That's the same in a big country like Colombia. It's the same in a big country like Peru. So you got to cater to every one of those markets. And we hired top marketing people to do that.
So what are you happy most with where you are today? And you said earlier that some things take longer. Mm-hmm. Where would you like to see more momentum and speed?
No, listen, I'm really satisfied with markets. There's nothing outside my expectations right now. Things do always take a little bit longer than people think. We're all enthusiastic. We all want to get to it. But there's one thing I'm convinced of. This is a global phenomenon. It's happening all around the world, and it's accelerating all around the world. I only focus on a handful of countries, and it's almost impossible to keep up on everything that's going on so fast. So stay tuned. The next 10 years is going to be very exciting.
What can we expect from Khiron Life Sciences going forward? What's the next big move on the chessboard?
More countries, more brands, more clinics, more sales. Look for that.